All right, folks, welcome to the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. To join the conversation over the next hour, simple to do, 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. You know, you can also email Text Joe on the radio at gmail.com. It appears on the same screen in real time. If you want to reach the show during the week when I'm off air, it's simple, real simple, joemshow@gmail.com. No problem. We are live streaming on the TuneIn app. Just punch in WCRN and you can take us anywhere. Tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that, no questions asked. And I am live streaming the show on my Twitter and Facebook page at Joe Mangi. Now, that is the social handle, by the way, Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I. YouTube channel under the same name, LinkedIn page under the same name, and we're on Twitch TV at Joe M Show. So many ways to join us today. Coming up shortly, we'll be joined by Dr. Larry Fedewa, who joins us typically once a month. With the change in the schedule, no longer on Saturdays, we're going to do Mondays with the good doctor, probably the third Monday of the month going forward, when he will join us and we'll solve the world's problems. Did you see the Oscars last night? Jazz is flying the board. Hey, Jazz, I don't know if you're working or not, your mic on or what have you, but I didn't watch the Oscars. I don't watch the Oscars. I used to do it back when Out with Joe was a bigger show on more hours and so forth. But I got to tell you, watching the clips of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, could not miss that in the morning news, right? It was all over the place. Initially, I thought this might be a skit, just part of, one of their attempts at comedy or something like that. But I got to tell you, Will Smith's reaction once he sat down and the vitriol that continued to come out about keeping his wife's name out of Chris Rock's mouth, etc., I don't think it was a skit. I think it was a real deal thing, which presents the question, how does someone walk 20 paces across the stage to physically assault a presenter, even though it's Chris Rock, who probably deserves a slap in the head every once in a while just because he's Chris Rock? That aside, no security, no charges. Chris Rock says he won't press charges, but when it's witnessed by, well, not only everyone, but police officers were there. So law enforcement officers witnessed the assault. If it would be anybody else, what if a fan had done that? I don't know. Where's your take on that? But at least it made the Oscars interesting. All right, folks. So I talked about this yesterday a little bit. President Biden's back in the United States after a 4-day trip with a bunch of gaffes. One particular gaffe heard around the world, if you really want to put it this way, and that was the notion that they need a new regime change and that he needs to be taken out of leadership role, meaning Putin. And that's okay for me to say that or you to say that. But when the president says that, it's policy of the United States of America. It means a lot more. And it carries a lot of weight. And what's interesting is Joe Biden himself back in August of 2019 tweeted in regards to President Trump, the words of a president matter. Yeah, Joe, which is why you should probably stick on script. So he continued with the words of a president matter. They can move markets. They can send our brave men and women into war. They can bring peace. And they can unleash the deepest, darkest forces in this nation, like Donald Trump has chosen to do. That's Joe Biden saying that, right? Then the headline, CNN, White House says Biden is not calling for regime change in Russia. Barron's, Biden says Putin cannot remain in power. Biden not calling for Russia regime change. White House had to come out and backpedal a lot of what the president said. And was there a way out of that? Maybe to say, what I'm saying is it needs a regime change, but that is the domain of the Russian people, not the United States of America. Make it very clear that the United States is not about to do anything or support anything for regime change. That is solely the responsibility and right of the the Russian people. Maybe that's how he gets out of that. He also made the comment about, when asked about Putin's use of chemical weapons, he made a mistake in saying we would respond in kind. That did more than raise a few eyebrows. By saying that we would respond in kind, you're saying the United States of America would use chemical weapons back. And of course, we would not. It's against all the treaties. We don't do that. We don't use chemical weapons. Even though President Obama drew a line in the sand in Syria regarding that, he just moved the line back when Syria gassed their own people. So the in-kind contribution, or excuse me, in-kind response to chemical weapons, huge gaffe. And then speaking to the 82nd Airborne, he is telling them what they will see when they're there, what they're going to experience. Again, raises a bunch of eyebrows. Did American policy change? Publicly, the White House has been adamant about not putting United States soldiers in Ukrainian war, on Ukrainian ground, in Ukrainian airspace. Period. So when someone like Joe Biden, who's up there in years and is an old 77, or what is he, 78, opposed to a young style, I mean, we all have relatives or friends who are in their 70s or maybe even early 80s. I have a couple friend of mine that both 80, 82. If I was to introduce you to them, you would guess that they were in their mid to late 60s. So there's a young, old, and a old, young, right? And when Joe Biden is not reading directly off the teleprompter for the words written for him, that's when we get into some dangerous ground. And you have to wonder at that point, were the words coming out of his mouth kind of a mixture of conversations held in private behind closed doors, or thoughts he might be having coming out of his mouth? Because he's thinking at some point, American soldiers will be where Ukrainian soldiers are. So the gaffes from the trip are few in the sense that there's really four major ones that were a problem, but they're very major ones. And they cause a lot of problems and cause the White House to have to do a lot of backpedaling. So this is going to be interesting. Meanwhile, we have nonpartisan congressional troops over trip over there. And so Putin, not only has he been able to unify NATO and kind of get them fired up and working together, but he seems to be able to unify some of the United States Congress on this nonpartisan issue. And I have to go back to this, folks, and I've talked about this over and over again, is we have this problem of what is the truth coming out of there. When you got, retired 4-star General Jack Kane saying Ukraine wins the war, and others saying Ukraine is absolutely flattened. What do we believe? But at 14 and a half minutes after the hour, we got to take a break in the first segment of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We'll come back on the other side with Dr. Larry Fedowa as we continue on the Monday edition. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Stick with us. This Find a Forever Home for Teddy's Friends is brought to you by Boxtrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Today's candidate is Jojo, a 6-year-old large mixed retriever in Labrador. This gentleman has wooed staff and volunteers with his suave looks and charming personality. Between his handsome face, goofy and mature personality, and medium energy, everyone who meets him falls in love. Jojo wants you to know how accomplished he is, house-trained, crate-trained, and all about keeping his space clean. Squeaky toys or balls, Jojo loves them all. He loves all toys. He loves to toss them around with you or even by himself. Doesn't mind playing solo for a while when you're busy. Jojo enjoys walking with his dog friends. We're not sure how he feels about cats. If you think Jojo is your new best friend, click Teddy Good Pup's Facebook page, pictures, and link to the Bay Path Animal Rescue League in Hopkinton. Find a Forever Home is brought to you by Boxtrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Click boxtropmiddlesex.com on Facebook at Boxtrop Middlesex.
Enjoy sitting down with your family for an Italian home-cooked meal? A trip to Ziti's is just like that, every time. The smells and tastes of true time-tested Italian recipes, the best in Italian cuisine, served by some of the nicest people you will ever meet. Ziti's fine Italian cooking is a favorite in Metro West.
All right, take the, there you go. Dr. Larry, do you hear me?
I do.
Okay, we're off air at the moment. I tried calling you back. I went to voicemail. Sorry about that.
I saw that. I didn't pick it up until a little bit later.
Oh, that's okay. So, what I was going to ask you is, whereas I'm not on for an hour before you come on this time.
Yeah.
The first segment, I was going to just kind of set up the topics of the show and get into the show, and whether or not you wanted to be sitting there for that or just wait until the quarter after to come in.
Well, it's a quarter after now, right?
Yeah. So that's what it was, but you're here now. Basically, what I've set up is the president's trip over, the major gaffes he made from calling for regime change to we will respond in kind to the chemical weapons question, and telling the 82nd Airborne that they'll see themselves, meaning American soldiers. So those were the three big things I set up with. Also, I set up the Oscar slap thing. I don't know if you saw that. Will Smith bitch slapped Chris Rock in the middle of the Oscars, which was pretty cool.
I'm pretty sympathetic to Will Smith.
Yeah, I am too. I think Chris Rock should get a bitch slap every once in a while for the hell of it. I got some of the poll numbers to go over. The other things out there that we're talking about, the Russians are taking hostages for journalists and threatening them, and we got to get back on. So we're going to go back to normal air status. Thanks, Jazz.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. When he drives a car off a lot, the value goes up. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. And joining us now, as promised, Dr. Larry Fedewa, who joins us typically once a month. And now that the Saturdays are gone, I think we've decided the third Monday of the month, Doctor, that will be your spot, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that's what we talked about.
That's what we talked about. All right. Well, welcome to this show. I know it's not the Thursday. This is the first month here. March is the first month we've gone on with the Friday edition. So now we're bookending the weekend, folks. Mondays and Fridays at 1, Sunday mornings still at 6 a.m. I gave the good doctor the option of Sundays at 6 a.m., and he just didn't want to jump on it. I don't know why. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. So, Dr. Larry, first of all, I had mentioned, did you watch the Oscars or did you see the replay of the clip of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock? Okay. So go ahead. Your take on it?
Well, number one, I wouldn't waste my time watching the Oscars since I haven't seen any of the movies and I really don't care too much. So I saw a clip, and frankly, I know it's not good behavior, and I know it's not in accordance with decorum for a guy to get up out of the audience and go slap the MC. But I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit sympathetic to Will Smith.
Mhm.
These guys, they get up there and they make fun of everything, and sometimes it's in really bad taste, and it's very hurtful.
Yeah.
And so some guy gets up out of the audience and goes and slaps the guy, and then turns around and walks away. I mean, you got to give him some.
Yeah. And actually, I saw the clip and they're talking because again, I agree with you. I said that in the opening. I don't watch the Oscars. I don't care enough. I think it's just another situation of these elite people who live in this bubble patting each other on the back again. I don't get it. So the thing is, I had to see it in the news, and you have to wonder when you see these things, how much of this is planned? Was this planned? Was this part of a comedy thing? And was it a phony slap? But I got to tell you, when Will Smith returned to his seat and he still has that anger and he's telling him to keep his wife's name out of his effing mouth and so forth. I said, no, I don't think this is all for real. And then his emotional apology to the Academy and the other recipients, not to Chris Rock. And for the record, I haven't been a fan of Chris Rock ever since he was out of line on a political scene, and I think he probably needs a slap in the head every once in a while on principle. So again, I'm with you there. I'm more sympathetic to Will Smith here, and the guy should have probably uh, kept the wives out of it. I think that's good advice in life. Always keep the wives or the spouses out of it. Keep the children out of it.
Yeah.
You're fair game always. I liken it to, with Trump. I was just reading an article about Barron. Right, Barron Trump has I guess the kid has shot up to like 6'7". Right, so he's 4 inches taller than his dad now. He's over a foot taller than his mom. But even people on the left, when Trump was in office, said, "Hey, Barron's off limits. He's just a child." He was like 12 or whatever, 10 when he went, 10, 12 years old in that age bracket, right? When he was in the White House. They said, when he's old enough to be his own person and speak for himself, that's fine. But, the other kids were totally in play. But then again, they were part of the administration. They were out there, of course they're fair game because they are who they are on their own. Barron was off limits. I think spouses and children should always be off limits and everything. The mafia has that rule. We should too. So where it goes. Look, let's
I
get.
always think of Ronnie Reagan.
Yeah.
Boy, what an embarrassment, huh?
Oh, Ronald Reagan compared to Joe Biden, you mean?
No, the son, Ronnie.
Oh, Ronnie Reagan. Yeah, the kid, Ronald Reagan's son.
Ballet dancer.
Yeah, didn't he get? Didn't he go into talk radio? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But boy, when his dad was in the White House, he was not short on comments.
Well, I don't remember a lot of that, to tell you the truth. I
Well,
remember Ronald Reagan. He was the first president I got to vote for. I know I'm kind of making you feel a little older there, Doc, but Ronald Reagan was the first president I got to vote for, and every president has always been, in my mind, I always try to compare him to Ronald Reagan, and very few have come close. And the only one that I think has come close is actually Donald Trump in a lot of ways. He's as unpredictable as Reagan was. I think he's as patriotic as Reagan was.
They both were policy presidents. In spite of Trump, Trump had a lot of gusto and a lot of talk, but basically it was his policies that really are his legacy.
Yes.
He taught all of the guys to come what it means to be a American first president. And I think that's what's going to. I think personally that's what's going to happen in 24. Somebody like DeSantis is going to end up being the nominee, but if he follows the Trump formulas, he'll be very successful.
Yeah, I was I was looking at some of the polls about Donald Trump running in 2024. Obviously, it's a good percentage among Republicans, and even a decent percentage among Democrats. But overall, he's on the top half of 50% of that. But you got to remember, Donald Trump is going to be 4 years older than when he left office.
Yeah, he's 78 years old.
He's 78 now, so you're talking about 80 years old. And as much as in my opening, I was actually talking about this. There are young 80-year-olds and old 80-year-olds. And Joe is what, 78 now, or is he 79?
He's about 98, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. He's an old 78, and they're a young 78. So I was saying, I have this couple friend of mine. They're both in their 80s. You would swear if I introduced you at dinner, you'd think they were mid 60s, maybe late 60s, and maybe just retired or something like that. And so and I think Donald Trump is a young 78 in the sense that he still has, I think the mind is still working. He still has the energy. He's always been this high energy guy. We saw that as president. He barely slept. I mean, that wasn't a presidential thing. He only slept 3 or 4 hours a night forever, right? He'd be up all night working. He'd be the first one in the office at 4 a.m. That's always been Donald Trump. He's always been that kind of person. And young people in the White House had trouble keeping up with him. He would do he'd do 2 rallies a night, right, and wrap up at midnight, and not go back to DC till well after midnight. I mean, it was just a crazy pace, even for a president, and he kept it up at his age. So I don't know if I would like an 80, 81, 82, 83-year-old even Donald Trump in the White House. But then you got Ron DeSantis, who, I mean, he's killing it in the polls, right?
Yeah, but they got a deep bench.
The Republicans do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what about the Democrat? I mean,
a lot of guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go over the top 3 or 4. Ron DeSantis, obviously.
No question.
Ted Cruz.
Cruz, yeah. Cruz he's really they've kind of sanded off the rough edges on that guy. Seems to me he's a lot smoother than he used to be.
Do you think that's a purposeful? Let's kind of smooth you out a little bit so you're more palatable come 2024.
Well, I doubt if it's done with that idea in mind, but I think that's what's happened.
Yeah,
I think when he first came to the Congress, to the Senate, he was a bad boy. He was against the leader, and he held out for his big long. Remember that big long filibuster that he had, trying to overcome the opposition of the leaders, and I mean he was really almost an outcast.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's one of the big guys now.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's even been talk from time to time that he could end up on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, that's what I think he ought to do. But he said that's not his interest.
Yeah. But before we get to 2024, of course, we've got the midterms, right? We're just months away now from the 2022 elections, midterm elections, all sides, both sides, right? Even the Democrats have come around to accept the fact that there is going to be a crimson tidal wave. And we see this mass exodus of Democrats not seeking reelection or seeking a different office so that they leave under their own terms. We'll continue with that discussion and a few other things concerning Moscow, Ukraine, and our situation there when we return on the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Dr. Larry Fedewa, our guest today. Stick with us, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Back in a moment, folks.
This is Full Service Radio, AM 830, WCRN, Worcester, Metro West.
I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Critics call it the Don't Say Gay bill. The governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, signed a bill forbidding instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through third grade.
I don't care what corporate media outlets say. I don't care what Hollywood says. I don't care what big corporations say. Here I stand. I'm not backing down.
DeSantis and Republicans have repeatedly said the bill is reasonable and parents, not teachers, should handle subjects of sexual orientation and gender identity with their kids.
We will make sure that parents can send their kids to school to get an education, not an indoctrination.
DeSantis signed the bill today. Critics of the bill in Florida say it is so vaguely worded, speech at schools could be muzzled. I'm Ed Donahue.
Hi, I'm Tom from the Kane 11 Sock Company.
And I'm beyond excited because now Kane 11 makes socks for women in their exact shoe size. That's 7 individual sizes from size 6 to size 12. You won't believe the difference you'll feel when you wear socks that actually fit.
At Kane 11, we don't make our socks like rubber bands, stretching to fit every size foot. We use exact measurements, the finest quality, so each individual size sock fits your foot perfectly. Go to Kane11.com, get 20% off your first order. Only available at Kane 11.
Walk the world with me. You're always up for some fun with the family, so you order the essentials, a new board game, some baking supplies, and even a new projector for outdoor movie night. And with the Bank of America customized Cash Rewards credit card, you can choose to earn 3% cash back on online shopping, which could increase to up to 5.25% as a preferred rewards member. Rewards which you can put toward an extra treat that everyone will enjoy, like an old-fashioned popcorn machine. Visit bankofamerica.com/more rewarding and apply now. Copyright 2021 Bank of America Corporation.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm Vicki Graffin. Here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. After a cold and windy afternoon, it's going to get even colder tonight. We're talking teens when you step outside early Tuesday morning, but it's going to feel like we're in the single digits, and that's what you'll need to dress for. We'll see a lot of sunshine through Tuesday afternoon with highs getting into the upper 30s. A late week warm-up is getting underway with highs in the 60s starting on Thursday. I'm Vicki Graffin. You can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
Another marvelous Monday in New England. I'm Ted A. Here are some historic facts that happened on March 28th. In 1797, Nathaniel Briggs of New Hampshire patented a washing machine. In 1866, the first ambulance goes into service. In 1910, the first seaplane takes off from water at Martinique, France. In 1935, Robert Goddard uses gyroscopes to control a rocket. In 1946, as the first act of the Cold War, the United States State Department releases a report that outlines a plan for the international control of atomic power. In 1959, only 11 days after the fall of Tibet, China dissolves Tibet's government. In 1979, a partial meltdown at 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. In 2017, President Donald Trump signs Energy Independence Executive Order. The WCRN News is brought to you by John the Roofer, a leader in the roofing and home improvements business for more than 70 years. Call 866-906-ROOF or go to the internet and see johnTheRoofer.com.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388 or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. His tears cure cancer. Too bad he never cries. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the third segment of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Jazz flying the board, and Dr. Larry Fedawar is our guest. Going into the break, we're talking about a the matchup. We're going to get into the 2020, the midterms, that is 2022. But, Doctor, they're not showing a lot of support for Mulligan come 2024 here. According to the Fox News poll, I want Biden Trump to run again in 2024. Yes, for 40% Trump, no, 56 Trump. Under Biden, 32% say yes, 64% say no. And when we look at the poll for President Biden's job performance among Democrats, we have 44 somewhat approve, and we have 38 strongly approve, and only 4 strongly disapprove. That's on Biden's job performance in Democrats. Now, the percent saying yes, run again in 2024, Democrats for Biden are saying 55%, 16 under Trump, but the Republicans are at 12 and 68 for Trump. So there's not a lot of support of running again in 2024. So that, I think we need a Ron DeSantis type, a Trump type, who's going to work on policies, right? We see DeSantis do this. Matter of fact, in the news break, they were just talking about the Florida Don't Say Gay bill. And I had gone over that over the weekend because that's not the name of the bill, obviously. And Democrats or people on the left have dubbed that bill Don't Say Gay bill. And what that comes from, and I agree with the part of the bill that says that the schools shouldn't be teaching sex education kindergartners to third graders. That's up to parents to deal with. But the bill does say, Doctor, that if a student goes to a teacher or social worker, nurse, or anybody at the school, and they ask a question about lesbian, gay, or gender identity, or they come out to any of them, that they're obligated to talk to the parents, to notify the parents. And that's why they've called it Don't Say Gay bill, because if you say that you're gay or you think you're gay to them, your parents have to be notified. And the kicker to that is, if they don't notify the parents have legal recourse. They can sue that person in the school system for not telling them about that. And I think that that's putting the child or the student into a tough situation, because they should all be able to come out in their own time frame and at their own level into who they want to. And if they can't talk to the nurse or guidance counselor or teacher they trust about it without that teacher being legally obligated to tell their parents, that's going to cause some trouble. I don't know where you stand on that, Dr. Lee, because we haven't talked about it.
Well, I listened with great attention to the most entertaining man in the world. I think it's true that it is, as a legislative prose, it is a little bit vague, but the principle is certainly one I would stand behind. Namely, let sex education, leave it in the hands of the parents.
Parents, exactly.
Not school. And of course, that's in the context is this CTC, what are they called, CRT, race theory.
Yeah, CRT.
It's that's the context, and that of course is really propaganda. That is indoctrination, as he called it.
Yeah.
So I'm very much in favor of the principle. I do think the language is a little bit loose, but
yeah. I think we might be on the same page on that, because again, I think that's up to parents to worry about. However, the part that says if the child comes forward, the student comes forward to a teacher or social worker or the nurse or somebody in the school system to ask about it, or say, I think I'm gay or lesbian, I don't think that they should be required to contact the parents at that point, but encourage the child to. But that's putting them in a tough position. And then you're going to have kids who, if they know that teacher has to say something to mom and dad, won't say anything at all. And that presents more problems. And we don't know where that kid's coming from. Are they coming from a home where they're going to be rejected or disowned? Or they're going to be physically assaulted because they say that or they come out? We don't know what that is. So like everything else, I don't ever want to put a young person in a no-win situation. I don't think it's fair to do that. But moving along, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Dr. Larry, we have a caller named Mark from Worcester who I guess wants to direct his question to you regarding Will Smith. So, Mark, you're on with Dr. Larry and myself. Good afternoon. You look marvelous.
You look marvelous as well.
Dr. Larry's on with us.
Dr. Larry.
Yeah.
I'm not the least bit sympathetic as to what Will Smith pulled at the Academy Awards, for the simple reason that if I did that, or Joe did that, or possibly even if you did that, I don't know what you do for a living. I don't know if you're still employed, but I don't think you would be employed too long after that incident took place. And that's just for starters. So there's two sets of behavior here. One for the elite, and one for the mere mortals like ourselves.
Well, I've never done it, so I don't know whether you're right or wrong.
If you ever did, hypothetical situation, how long do you think you'd have a job? I don't think you'd have a job for too long.
Okay. All right. We get the question, Mark. So, Dr. Larry, hypothetically, let's put it out there that if the average person, and this is something I presented up too, if one of us, if a fan had gone up on that stage, if anybody but Will Smith went up on that stage, would they have been able to take 20 paces across that stage or not? Now, I understand because it's Will Smith, right? Security, police, even everybody there. They didn't know if this is part of the shtick or not. So nobody's going to actually jump out of their seat. But once he struck him, there was no response.
Well, I think a lot of it would depend on exactly what the MC said. I if it was a really gross, a lot indication of what if the joke was really gross regarding the wife of this guy, of you or me or any of us, then we walk up and we slap the guy, and we walk back. I think for one thing, I think everybody'd be so stunned they wouldn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, if you were let's say you're at a school function or some kind of a civic event, it would make a difference what the event was. If you were at a school event and something like that happened, I think there would be a pretty sympathetic audience. But if you were at a civic or a political event, I think that there'd be a big hubbub and probably you'd be in trouble.
Yeah. Okay.
It also depends on the reaction of the guy that got slapped.
Absolutely. And Chris Rock is not, as it's been reported over and over again, and not pressing charges. And I think that Chris Rock won't press charges because he wants to have a career.
Well, he knows he was out of line.
Yeah.
And he's kind of ashamed of himself.
Yeah. That's it.
And so I think there's a lot of factors that would go into that kind of a reaction that we can't know unless we have an actual situation.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We're going to take a break shortly, but before we go into the break, Doctor, we have these reports coming out about the Russians are abducting hostages and threatening Ukrainian journalists. So they're either kidnapping the family or they're taking these journalists to make sure they report the way they want them to report and behave. So that's of course a problem. And we also have President Zelensky saying, I just need more equipment. I need more equipment. Please send some planes, send some tanks, this kind of thing. And then we got Joe Biden's proposed billionaire tax. Let's see if we can fit some of this discussion all in the last segment. But we do have to take a break here at 44 and a half minutes after the hour, folks. Dr. Larry Fedor online with me. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Back in a moment. Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and I have recently purged and refreshed with new furniture and, most importantly, a new bed. We spend about a third of our life on our mattresses, and it's so vital we have the right one, and we don't break the bank to do that. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own, and a power base that moved the head and feet, and then I met John, and I checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online at boxdropmiddlesex.com, and ended up with a better mattress, a power base that also heats and massages, all for less than half of what I was going to spend at the other place. Box Drop is a discount mattress store, and John specializes in clearance and closeouts, and he buys directly from the manufacturer with a low overhead and just family employees passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9303. That's 508-579-9303. And you can find John on Facebook at Box Drop Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
Addiction is a disease. Get courage. Get help. Insurance may cover the cost. Call 800-430-4149. 800-430-4149.
A wedding is a beautiful ceremony that honors the joining of two human hearts, and it is the most important day of your life. And if you'd like your wedding to be as memorable experience and a genuine reflection of who you are, and one that your family and your guests will carry with them for the rest of their lives, I'd offer you to consider a Justice of the Peace. Justice Missy Margolis has been performing her duties for over 20 years for the sheer joy and pleasure of bringing other people happiness. Missy officiated my wedding ceremony. She will work with you to create the perfect wedding ceremony that reflects your traditions, beliefs, and culture while showing the world the beauty of who you are. I've personally known Missy for nearly 40 years, and whether you have a complex or a traditional wedding, a quick modern wedding, or a ceremony, Justice Missy Margolis will make it beautiful. Missy can also do vow renewals, remembrances, and ceremonies that include your children. She can perform a small, intimate ceremony to a large wedding any day of the week. Missy is truly a justice for all. And you can call Missy directly at 508-735-8999 or by email at justicemissyforyou@gmail.com. Justice Missy, number 4, letter U @gmail.com. And of course, you can click ajusticeforall.com. Again, justiceforall.com.
Motorcycles are everywhere. Just drive. Even quick distractions can end in tragedy. Look for bikes. Look for life.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877-DRIVE-ED. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoSchool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877-DRIVE-ED.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Boston 25 Morning News.
Our goal is to send you out the door knowing what the weather is, how bad the traffic is, what are the big stories, and what do I need to know to be ready for my day.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email text Joe on the radio @gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. He brings a knife to a gunfight just to make the odds even. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. So from the U.S. Sun, enslaved barbaric Russians snatched 40,000 Ukrainians from cities and forced them into slave labor. All right, so this is something that, of course, the Sun's reporting it, and hundreds of children are now lost and alone in the clutches of ruthless Russian troops after being forced away from their families. Now, there's reports of some of these adults being shipped thousands of miles away to forced labor areas, and that the children are being put into labor or other things that aren't that great. So that's coming out of the Sun, Doctor. I don't know if you saw that report. You're failing in the big picture of things to have this going on top of the unwarranted attack onto the sovereign nation of Ukraine, and now against all violations of Geneva Convention and war, enslaving prisoners of war and children. in taking the children away from parents. Did we lose the doctor?
Well, that goes. I think with with some of the other incidents that we're talking about. It's true not only in Russia, but also even more so in China. And we got some bad guys out there.
Yes. Yes. And when we're looking at the I don't know what to call it, if Xi Jinping and Putin come together anymore, I was hoping that Xi Jinping may have been sympathetic to Putin a little bit in the beginning, because he thought this was going to be a less than a week war, a little like a Crimea, annex it and that's it. But this is now over a month, I think 30 some odd days into this. Do you think that China's going, ruh-roh? Yeah, we don't know if we want to be associated with this madman, with this person who the entire world is don't want to touch, right? I mean, we've got private companies stopping to do business, won't sell to Russia. I mean, the Russian people are the ones that are going to get hurt. The Russian economy. Putin is sanction proof. I mean, this guy, what do you have? This $700 million yacht. He has a palace. He's got his mistress and kids in some Swiss luxury resort. He's got tons of money, and I'm sure it's in either American dollars or gold and so forth, right? Assets hidden away. Nothing's gonna bother this guy. And if anybody bothered to read his manifesto 11 months ago, they'd know exactly what he's thinking and what he's going to try to do, wouldn't they?
He said, I mean, he spelled it out in detail, so I guess there's no excuse for not knowing, unless you're too lazy to read it as a reporter or a commentator, which is much the case, I think, on the other side of our political spectrum.
Sure, I agree.
But yeah, but the other piece of this, I think that we tend to overlook is what's happening in the Middle East. The absolute insanity of the Biden foreign policy is just it's too hard. It's almost unbelievable. He's fighting Putin in Ukraine. He's worried about Russia taking over or essentially demolishing NATO, and then in the same breath, he appoints Putin as his principal negotiator for the
Iranian
situation, and that means that he is also and the carve-outs that Putin is taking will give him exclusive control of the airspace all the way from Iran through, of course, Russia, and then as much as he can get of Ukraine and all of and then that in turn means that the Iranians get nuclear. Then that sparks a nuclear arms race between the Saudis, and Iran, and Afghanistan is going to get back into it. Pakistan is already nuclear. I mean, it's just crazy. And what it's going to do is it's going to solidify the power of Putin as an individual over this entire Mediterranean world, except for the Western NATO members who can't seem to make up their minds what to do anyway, and to give Putin, your mortal enemy, this kind of discretion is just absolutely insane.
Yeah, good point. Okay, why in the world would we allow Russia to be part of these negotiations, and why are we even in these negotiations, and allow Iran to become a nuclear power? I did. To what end?
Well, Israel's gone if that happens.
Well, that's exactly. Again, right? When people tell you who they are and what they're going to do, believe them. Believe them, right? If you read Putin's manifesto, there you would believe what he's doing right now is exactly what he said he wanted to get done. If you listen to Iran and other Middle Easterns, right, to wipe Israel off the face of the planet, that's not hyperbole. They intend to do that. And why would we be dealing or allow Russia to be dealing on our behalf or in any way, shape, or form affecting United States policy? This is the stuff that, people look at and watch, and this is when I think you say the competency of this president. Never mind the.
I think it's more than that.
Well, there's got to be something else working here.
I think it's treasonous.
Exactly, and you got to say why. And then my question is, why? Is there, because you can't ignore the fact that now that the New York Times says that laptop is real, and that's a whole nother discussion why the world doesn't believe it's real until the New York Times says it is. I mean, the New York Post nailed that story 100% on the head, but no, they got censored. You couldn't even share the link back then. And every poll says, 40-50% of the people polled said if they knew about this story prior to the election, they probably would not have voted for Biden. So you've got the butterfly effect in action here. And you say, and there's one of the clips in that laptop where Hunter's saying to the lady he's with, whether she's on the clock or not, that Russia has the laptops or has what's on the laptops, and my father's going to run for president. So the question is, between Russia and China, how much do they have on Joe Biden, and how much of his actions are based on that? And we still have the conflict of interest right now. We're dealing with Russia. Nobody's really explained, or in the media hasn't done their job to talk about the millions that he received from the Moscow mayor's wife, who's an oligarch in her own right, and the money that's came out of China. This family is so corrupt and so beholden to these two nations that we're at odds with, that you have to say he's got to be removed from office on that alone.
I think they own him, and I think that most of what his conflict, one of the reasons why he keeps saying things they then has to be retracted, is because he's got this conflict himself. He knows that he's the president of the United States, but he also knows what his masters are telling him. And every once in a while, he runs off script, and then the boys back in the White House have to correct him. I think this whole thing is it's absolutely terrible. It's the worst thing in American history.
Yeah, and it's not an isolated.
And if he doesn't get impeached and taken out of office, Israel is down the tubes. The Saudis are probably down the tubes. Our entire world, the real world order he's talking about,
New World, yeah,
is changed.
Yeah. And I regret we don't have more time today to talk about that, but his latest comments about the New World Order, this reset. This isn't nothing new. We've heard these terms and we've heard this talk for a long time, and it's not conspiracy theory, folks. The President of the United States said it's time for a New World Order, that this is perfect time for reset, and that's a major concern. But we are out of time for the Monday edition. Dr. Larry, tell people where they can check you out online and listen to you.
Well, I guess the best place is drlarryonline.com.
There you go. Very good. You're still on Wednesday nights at 7:00, right?
Yep.
All right. Dr. Larry, thank you very much for jumping in and joining us. That will wrap up Monday's edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrap Middlesex Mattress Studios. Don't forget to follow me on social media platforms at Joe Mangi, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. All right, I'll be back Thursday morning for Political Thursday with Jerry Doherty at 10 a.m., folks. You have a great rest of your day.